You know, in a big, crowded city, just one word can make you feel like you found a piece of home. But what happens when that same word suddenly becomes something to be ashamed of? That's exactly what we're going to get into today with Shekhar Joshi's incredible short story, Dayu. It's a powerful tale about a bond that starts from loneliness but gets completely shattered by pride. First off, a quick shout out to the folks at JS Board Academy for helping us dive into this classic. All right, let's jump right in. So, right off the bat, the story is framed as one about a child laborer. But honestly, it's about so much more than that. At its heart, it's about a young boy. His name is Madan. He's left his home in the mountains to work in a city cafe, really for one simple, heartbreaking reason: just to survive. Or, as the story puts it, to quell the fire in his stomach. So, here's how we're going to break down this emotional journey. We'll start with that first bit of loneliness and hope, see how a bond forms, then watch the painful moment it shatters. We'll look at the innocent heartbreak that follows, and finally, wrap up with the real essence of the story. Okay, so let's set the scene. Picture this: a busy city cafe. You know, the kind with all the noise, the clatter of dishes. And it's right here that two very lonely people are about to meet for the first time. So on one side, you've got Jagdish Babu. He's a guy who's just moved to the city, and even though he's surrounded by people, he feels completely and totally alone. Everything just feels off. And then there's Madan. He's this young kid, maybe 9 or 10 years old, working as a waiter just to make ends meet. And the way the author describes Madan is just, wow, it's beautiful. He's got the swiftness of a water drop sliding on a lotus leaf. I love that. It's this incredible, vibrant energy that really catches Jagdish Babu's attention. You know, it's like a tiny spark of life in his otherwise pretty bleak and lonely existence. So, how do we get from just noticing a kid in a cafe to something deeper? Well, it all starts with a single, simple question. And believe me, this question sparks a connection that's both powerful and, as we'll see, incredibly fragile.
Jagdish Babu is just desperate for any kind of human connection, right? So he asks Madan, hey, where are you from? And when Madan tells him he's from a village near Almora, which is the very same region Jagdish Babu is from, it's like a switch flips. The story says the ink of loneliness on Jagdish Babu's face vanished. Just like that. Suddenly, they're not just a customer and a waiter anymore, there's something else.
And this is where we get to the heart of the story, that one single word, Dayu. In their local dialect, it means big brother. And for Madan, a kid who's all alone and far from home, Jagdish Babu instantly becomes that big brother he's missing. I mean, this word is packed with so much emotion, so much respect, and this feeling of I belong here. And Madan? Oh, he just dives headfirst into this new bond. His greetings totally change. They become so personal and warm. He'll say things like, Daju, Jai Hind, or Daju, wow, it's cold today, or even notice, Daju, you barely ate anything yesterday. And for a little while, all of Jagdish Babur's loneliness just melts away. The city finally starts to feel like home. But this is where things start to turn. The story does such a brilliant job of showing just how fragile this connection is. It really gets into how the pressures of social status can creep in and poison something that was once so pure. So that warm feeling, it starts to cool off for Jagdish Babu. His, middle-class sensibilities start taking over. He's making other friends now, acquaintances from his own social circle. And suddenly, having this little kid who works in a cafe calling him Big Brother out loud, in public, it starts to feel, well, embarrassing to him. It feels like a threat to his reputation, his prestige. And then we get to the moment it all breaks. Madan walks up to him, ready to be friendly like always, and before he can even say a word, Jagdish Babu just snaps. He unleashes these incredibly cruel words. Why do you keep shouting Daju, Daju day and night? Don't you have any regard for a person's prestige? And you know what? He doesn't even care if Madan knows what prestige means. He just wants him to stop. He wants the whole thing, the boy, the bond, to just go away. So, let's talk about the aftermath. What does that kind of cruelty do to a kid? A lonely kid who thought he'd finally found a little piece of his family again? For Madan, the pain is just immense. That one single outburst completely shatters his world. The author describes it so powerfully, it's like he was forcefully pulled from his mother's lap, his father's arms, and his sister's shadow. I mean,
The one person in this whole giant, strange city who felt like home has just completely rejected him.
Madan just tells his boss he has a headache and disappears into his tiny room to be alone. And the image the author gives us is absolutely gut-wrenching. He just buries his head in his knees and sobs and sobs. He's just letting out all that hurt, all that confusion of a kid whose trust has been completely and totally broken. Okay, so after all of that, what's the big takeaway? What's the real essence of this incredibly powerful and really tragic story? It's amazing how much Daju packs into such a short story, right? First, it's a stark reminder of just how fragile human connections can be. Then it shines a huge spotlight on that awful conflict between what we genuinely feel for people and how obsessed we can get with social status, with prestige. And of course, at its core, it's a devastating story about losing your innocence way too soon, and about that deep, painful loneliness that comes with being a migrant, just trying to build a better life. And all of that really brings us to the final haunting question the story leaves you with. And it's a question that feels just as important today as it ever was. Is social prestige really more important than human relationships? It's definitely something to think about.